Welcome to Module 2 of the Beginner's Guide to Webinars. What to expect at a webinar. Okay, so there are many different webinar hosting providers, and each one the interface is a little bit different. So on some you might see a list of attendees, while another might not show that. The most common platform is GoToWebinar, and we'll look at a GoToWebinar screen capture in the next module, actually later in this module. On a webinar, you'll see the host screen, and that may include a PowerPoint presentation, would look like this one. It might include video, which could be live or recorded. And you might also have live web or software demonstrations. Typically, the attendees' microphones are muted, so people won't be able to hear what you say. When we look at a live webinar, we'll see exactly what that looks like. And in addition, we'll see a chat box and how the chat box works. But in general, you should know that you can input questions, and usually only the host can see them, though the host may decide to share the question with the audience if they're going to answer the question. And with GoToWebinar, you also have a raise hand button, and you can click this if you have a question, and then the host may unmute your microphone so that all attendees can hear you and you would be able to answer your question. Sometimes you can call in by phone to hear the audio for a webinar, although most people just use their computer's audio system. In addition to a host, there may be a co-host, there may be more than one host, or there may be a host and one or more panelists. And these people may be in the same place physically, they might be in the same room, or they might be in different parts of the world. Typically, webinars are scheduled to last for an hour. That's certainly not a rule, but that just seems to be the most common. And just as common is that they last longer. Don't know that I've ever been in one that actually only lasted an hour. Sometimes on webinars there's contest, and I think this is a growing trend. It certainly adds to the interactivity of the webinar. Makes it more exciting. I really like it, and I think it's a good trend. I'm glad to see it. One thing to keep in mind is when you register for a webinar, you'll see that it will say, it's at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Remember the time zones. It will tell you what time zone that is for, and it varies. But just remember to check and see what time it's going to be in your time zone so that you don't miss it. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at a live webinar. Okay, so we're going to see what it's like to actually go to a webinar. This is a webinar that I received an invitation for, and so about an hour ago I received this 30-minute notice. The webinar started about 30 minutes ago, but that's okay. We can still join while it's in progress. So we will just click right there. And the way that this one works, this is run through webinarswaps.com, and in this case we will just go ahead and put in my name and email address. Okay, and you can see here that it says the Java plugin was blocked because it is out of date. So I could go ahead and update Java here, or I can just go ahead and run this time. I'm going to run this time. Okay, now it's asking me if I want to run this application. This little thing here means it's a Java application, and I'm going to say yes, that's no problem. So it downloaded this small application, and now it's going to open that up. And
welcome to GoToWebinar, web events made easy. Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Great presentation together, and once they all fit in together, then you yourself,
all right, so this is the webinar here,
can create this urgent.
And so I just turned off the audio there. I put it to, oh, I'm sorry, so you can see this box here. I turned off the audio there. I put it to telephone, and you can see, by the way, that this is the webinar that I have going on here. It's actually a webinar about webinars. So kind of fitting. But what I really want you to see here is this box. This is with GoToWebinar, but you will see similar things with other webinars. And here you can type in questions. You will see the questions that the host is showing to the other people. When you type it in here, you're not going, all the other participants will not see it automatically. It will go to the host, then the host can display those questions if he or she chooses to display them. Okay, and you can see here, it will tell you who's talking. This is a webinar with E. Brian Rose and Brian Zimmerman. And so right now, Brian Zimmerman is talking, and it will go back and forth and tell you exactly who's talking. You can actually access the audio for this by dialing in on the telephone, or you can go here to mic and speakers and
Welcome to GoToWebinar, web events made easy. Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Use Warrior Plus, and it says only 3 left at this price.
Okay, so we can see there that by doing the mic and speakers, we get the audio. Okay, so you can type in questions here, and those questions will go to the host as text. This shows me that I am muted by the organizer. Otherwise, they would be hearing what I'm saying into the microphone right now, I suppose. But we're recording this, so if you can see this indication here, sometimes you can raise your hand, click this button, and then the host can call on you to ask a question. And when they do that, you'll see this light up. And that means that the people on the webinar can actually hear what you're saying. The vast majority of the time, this is going to be muted. Okay. And that takes it to full screen mode, which you can't see because I don't have my full screen showing here. But instead of being in this window, it puts the webinar in full screen mode with this control panel, question panel overlaid on top of it. Okay, so that's the basics of a webinar. This is what to expect when you're there. That brings us to the end of Module 2. Next, we have Module 3, what to expect at a recorded webinar.